What is average? And why does it suck to be average?
Okay, good. So this whoever asked that question clearly has their opinion made up. I'll start with saying it doesn't suck to be average. You can say average, and maybe you're talking about people, right? People who just don't strive for more or settle. Let's disassociate that from average for a moment, because that's not average. Let's say average was a level of motivation. Let's say that. That's better. It's more universal, and that does suck. You don't want average motivation, right? I got to not look at you because you asked the question. So I'm going to look at all of you, everyone watching. You got to look at average as the level of motivation, right? So it's a mindset. I don't want to be average. It sucks to be average if it's a mindset, not if it's a person. There's no such thing as average people. There's only extraordinary people who don't know they're extraordinary yet. That's an average person that we call. It's an extraordinary person who has not tapped into their potential yet. Are you following me? So to answer the question, first of all, it doesn't suck to be an average person, because technically everyone's an average person, because no one's special. Everyone is a human. We all have, most of us have almost the same type of qualities and, all the physical parts. The only difference is the way we think. That's the only difference. And then there's a whole category of people who think a certain way that clearly have accumulated most of the power and influence in the world. And there is a whole category of people that think a certain way that they haven't been able to actually achieve their goals in life. But that is just a thinking thing. So it doesn't, we're not talking about average people. Let's talk about average thinking. Let's do that, okay? So what is average? Okay, average is complacency. Okay, let me tell you this. This is a scary thing. In my readings, I learn a lot, and one of the biggest things I learned is this. Complacency is not something you could fix. Like if you as a person are comfortable with where you're at and you don't want to strive more, that's the closest to impossible for change in a person, because that person has made up their mind that it's okay where they're at and it's okay that they don't have what they want, and they've justified, I like this. Now, some people might come back and say, Armin, how do you know that the person doesn't want more? Or how do you know that's not happy for them? Maybe a person came from a third world country and just owning a home and having a job here is like a millionaire to them there. Fair. That's super fair. However, if that person had the opportunity to come here, if they were born here, and they have all these options and opportunity, and they're just settling for having a job and just never looking deeper in what they're capable of doing, that's average thinking. That's a disease. Okay, average thinking leads you to mediocrity. Now, what's mediocrity? I'll actually give you a great example. I learned this from a sales team I was in years ago. I lived in Vancouver, and I still remember it because the trainer did so well. He goes, look, there's fire and then there's a magnet. So imagine this, right? There's a fire. See, when we do pre-recorded edits, by the way, you can put this on screen. So imagine this. There's a fire, which is a fear. It's like something you're trying to run away from. And then you have a magnet. It's like a dream. It's pulling you. Fire is a motivation. Magnet is an inspiration. There's a difference between motivation and inspiration. Motivation is a push thing. It's a discipline thing. Inspiration is you wake up because you're excited, not because you have to, right? But they're both powerful. He goes right in the middle of the fire and the magnet is called mediocrity. It's comfort. He goes, stay away from this middle as much as possible, don't ever get stuck there. It's when a person doesn't have much motivation to run away from anything or to escape like a circumstance, which means they're kind of comfortable. They're like, yeah, I'm not miserable yet. But they also don't have anything great and huge to look forward to. Like, it doesn't excite them to wake up and go to their job, unless it does. By the way, it can. I've met people like this. They're very happy. They're richer than rich people, I believe. But the person who wakes up is like, oh, I gotta go to work again, right? They're right in that middle. Because the job is kind of giving them some type of comfort, stability, and it's like not what they like doing, they're right in the middle, they're stuck. This is like, people might be afraid of something after life that's called hell. Well, that's living in hell, like during life. Right in the middle of motivation and inspiration, of pain and pleasure. Right in the middle is I'm comfortable. I don't need to do more. I'm okay. Maybe later. And I'll follow up with this, by the way. That's why failure, disaster, rock bottom is the richest experience of life, if you know how to use it. I was reading in Think and Grow Rich. Many of you know I'm a student of Think and Grow Rich. I give most of my credit to my thinking, to the philosophy of Think and Grow Rich, to the courses that I've taken from Think and Grow Rich, and to Satish Verma. He's the president of Think and Grow Rich. He's my mentor. And I was sitting there and I was reading I was studying this book, and I read, failure is the greatest thing that can happen to a person, especially when they're succeeding on a high level. Because what it does is it brings humility to the person. And then it starts their mind at zero, so they start fresh, and they're able to now access knowledge that they were not able to access unless they had failed first. Meaning, it brings a form of wisdom, a maturity, a growth to the person who fails. If they have made up their mind to get out of the failure and learn from it, not if they defeated themselves and said, I'm screwed. That's true failure when you quit. But like failure that happens to us where we just don't get what we want, or we aim for something and we lose, that is the greatest thing in the world. You don't believe me. If you don't believe me, I mean, for the last 3-4 years of my company, my team always sees, they'll come in and be like, this just happened. I'm like, that's good. And they're like, what the hell? Why is that good? Like, for example, I was at my reborn experience last year, and we were making lots of noise, okay? Because many of you know it's an exciting 3 days of your life. And we had this group next to us, okay? And they were like, paint this, okay? Paint this picture. Let me show you something. Are you ready for this? I'm having the reborn experience in this hotel. And we're playing music and dancing. I hired performers. I hired, they didn't even get to play because of this problem, but they didn't get to dance. I hired a dance crew that danced for the Toronto Raptors to come. And so they were all there. They just didn't get to perform. But they came and we're like jumping. It's crazy, right? So it's loud. The convention next to us is... it's crazy, the contrast. It was a suicide? No, sorry. It was like a death and grief conference.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, the irony. I'm running a reborn experience, meaning you die and come back to life. That means you die before you die and you become who you want to become. The saying is that your new self will cost you your current self, meaning you must sacrifice who you are to become who you want to become, right? And it's a metaphor. It's like a figure of speech. You don't actually kill people. We just mentally and emotionally transform you. They're next door and they're talking about death in a different way. They're next door talking about death like we have to be very respectful. We must be quiet. We must be politically correct. We have to take care of these people. Mental health is an issue. And I'm like, it is. That's why I have the reborn experience. Mental health people come with issues and we help them figure it out. So they go into the hotel and complain. I'm giving you a defeat here, a failure, right? Because we're talking about average. Let me look at the difference of average thinking and not average thinking, like extraordinary thinking. They come in and the hotel comes and says, hey, listen, you have to tone it down. Like, you have to bring the volume down or else we have to, like, kick you out. I'm like, we're 2 days into my 3-day seminar. You're not going to kick us out in the middle of the seminar. They were serious. They said, look, the next door, they just can't, every time you play music, they come and complain to us. I'm like, I play music every 2 hours because we have a break and they come back. And it's only for like 5 minutes, so what's the big deal? And they go, no. You have to you got to turn the volume down. I'm like, God. And I looked at him, I'm like, listen, after this break, I have a dance crew coming for 15 minutes. We're going to be blasting music and people are going to be dancing and clapping. And he looks at me and says, you can't do that. I'm like, really? You're telling me I can't do this? I hired this crew. They're already here. I paid them the money. And I've told everyone a performance is coming. You can't do this. So I said, okay, great. Let us get back to you. They leave. My event manager looks at me and she says, what the hell are we going to do? I'm like, this is great. And she goes, what are you talking about? This is great. But she understands me a little bit and she goes, okay, it's great. Okay, why is it great? We actually had to come down to doing one thing. I had to cancel the performance and we had to like get quieter. And we did a little. But I went to the crew and I said, hey, now imagine they just traveled here. They did all this stuff, accommodation to come dance for us. I said, listen, I can't have you dance anymore, but I'm still going to pay you. They were shocked. They were like, really? Are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to pay you because this is my fault, not yours. I hired you to come here. Your time got blocked out. Here's your money. And hopefully in the future I can bring you guys back and you can have a great performance. And he looked at me and he said, wow, like that's we didn't expect that. Because most people go and say, oh, I can't, if you're not performing, I shouldn't pay you. So I'm like, you know what? No, this is our problem, not yours. And I said, this is a great opportunity for you guys to learn. Maybe, business could be done this way. And if this didn't happen the way it did, we wouldn't have been able to meet. And you wouldn't have been able to see my character, which maybe wants you to work with me later on. And they were happy, and we gave them high fives, and they left. And we figured it out. And the next door people, we went over, and we were like saying, we were learning about their stuff. We showed interest, and they didn't complain anymore. But I also looked This is where you guys, maybe we could do other episodes with sales. I looked at the manager in the eyes, okay? Here's what you do. When you want to get other people to do what you want them to do, don't tell them. Put them on a pedestal. I'm giving you a secret, okay? Put them on a pedestal and make them live up to it. So the hotel manager came and said, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, listen, first of all, I want to acknowledge it's probably really stressful being you right now because you're going through a lot of pressure from upper management to you. So I want to, you're doing a great job. Thank you. Second of all, you guys are so good to us. This is a great hotel. Your service is amazing. Meanwhile, their service actually wasn't that great. But the goal is, their job is they're doing the best. So I said, your service was amazing. And I just want to let you know, I know you guys are going to figure this out. We're here for 3 days. We're a bigger client of yours. I think I spent like $15,000 on that venue for those 3 days. I'm like, we're here, a bigger client of yours. We want to come back. And I think you're really going to figure it out. I'm willing to cancel my performers. And I'm still paying them. In exchange, hopefully you guys can meet us halfway and let us do everything else the way we do it. So he looked at me with such shock, thinking, wow, that's actually, that's very integrable in a way. And he was shocked that I even did that. And he's like, okay, let me figure it out. He kind of was like, he built some respect, and he left. He came back, he said, let's cover your dancer's fee. We want to pay for you. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. And you know what? If they come back and complain again, we'll let them know that it's almost over. And I looked at him, I give him a handshake, and the kind of rapport we built there? I said, thank you so much. I forgot his name. I said, Mr. Whatever. It really shows me your character. Because you can judge a person's character by how they respond to a problem. In fact, when you meet me, I'm always watching to wait for something bad to happen, right? In your eyes, like you don't get what you want. So I can see how you act about it. Your attitude in negative situations determine your success. So if we're talking about averagism and why it sucks, because average thinking people, they look at failure and go, oh, this sucks, blah, 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 blah. What? It's the richest experience of your life to not get what you want because it gives you humility. All right?